Welcome to Beyond the Strikes, and I'm delighted to say we're joined by Miranda Fear The Maverick. Miranda, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. So our first section is called From the Start. So let's take a whistle-stop tour through your early life. And first questions are, where did you grow up and what was it like to grow up there?
So I kind of grew around a lot of places. I was kind of born and raised in central Missouri and moved around a lot as a kid. My dad was a real estate developer, and so him and my whole family and I would travel around from state to state, kind of flipping rural properties rather than just houses. So I worked on farms pretty much my whole life growing up. We usually have beef cattle everywhere we would move to. And now my family has managed to travel, I think, to 7 different states is where most of them have lived. And now we're back in Missouri and have a farm there again.
That sounds amazing to be kind of traveling around and seeing so much at such a young age. Did you have a favorite place that you stayed?
I think Missouri, when I was young, I definitely liked Florida. We stayed there for almost a year and I liked it, but it wasn't as lucrative, I guess you'd say, as a lot of other places were.
Yeah. And how did you get into combat sports?
My dad always wrestled around with me and my brother and sister when we were young, and my whole family kind of just rough houses a lot. And he started taking a real notice of wanting to get his kids into self defense. And so we started actually learning real techniques rather than just, grabbing each other. We would watch UFC fights and learn what we could from that, watch YouTube videos, watch whatever we could, and started learning different submissions and different aspects of jujitsu. And
Mhm.
then I decided at 16 that I would go to a gym and ask my dad if he'd be okay with me going and training it formally. He said yes, as long as I paid for it. So I found a way to do that, and my journey began when I was almost 17.
That's that. And I mean, I've got a 1-year-old daughter, so I'm a kind of new dad, and I think the whole
Congrats.
self-defense route, yeah, and the self-defense route is just like absolutely so important, I think, and yeah, I think it's definitely one that we'll be looking, my wife and I, to get our daughter into. So that sounds great. And was it always combat sports that you're interested in? Because I know I've spoken to a few athletes, and I have a few athletes friends, and you guys seem to have a tricky knack at knowing and being able to kind of do a whole range of sports.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've always been good at pretty much every sport I've ever tried.
You're
Never
one
the
of those people,
Yeah,
yeah.
never the best though, and when I started jujitsu, I knew I could be one of the best at that. So I'd done track and field, was pretty good at that as a youth. Did basketball, was pretty good at that until my height started giving me disadvantages. Soccer, gymnastics when I was really young, and wrestling my senior year after I'd started jujitsu. So a lot of different things. Really, anything that I tried athletic, I was pretty good at. But of course, it's a different level to be a professional athlete in something.
Oh, absolutely. And I think just professional, that kind of level you need to get to be a professional athlete is just it's just incredible. And we'll come on to that in a bit. I've got a random question for you so we can get to know you a little bit more. So when you were younger, do you remember the first song or album you bought?
Ooh, I don't know about bought, but I know one of my favorites to listen to and stuff were just like Johnny Cash. I don't really have an album I can think of, but listened to that a lot as a kid and a lot of like the old school country songs.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else. And then there was like, um, oh, I can't remember, but like the song Superman, It's Not Easy. I think that was the first album I ever actually bought my dad. Can't remember who the artist is though.
Yeah, I'm with you on Johnny Cash. I wish my first song was as cool as that. I think the first song I purchased was Cisco Thong Song, if you remember that one. So
No, I'm
one
not
that's a little bit more embarrassing. Yeah, I'm definitely with you on Johnny Cash. And then do you have a walkout song, like a specific walkout song that you like to go to the cage with?
So I actually, as of my last fight, have come up with one that I want to just keep probably permanently. So it's a Casting Crowns song, and unfortunately, they did not air my walkout live for whatever reason. I don't know if it was ESPN not wanting to because it was a religious song or what, but it's a Casting Crowns song called Only Jesus, and they actually remade it for me to be a little bit more upbeat than what the original song was. So I'm getting ready to go to one of their concerts in a couple weeks, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, so you got a personalized song to walk out to. That's
Yeah.
cool.
It is their original wording though. It's just a little bit, like I said, a little bit more rocky than like gospel.
Mm. And I mean, that is super cool. Like some of the entrances you see now are just amazing. Like the pop that you get when you see some of the fighters go out. It's yeah, it's incredible. And I'm always fascinated by the stories behind fighter nicknames. So what's the story behind your fight name of Fear the Maverick?
So my old coaches at Springfield Fight Club in Springfield, Missouri, were always tormenting me because I was too nice to my opponents as an amateur and even a beginning pro. And I'd always walk up to them and just be super friendly and stuff. And they were like, "Hey, like you need to make them fear you. You need to make them fear the Maverick." And somehow over time of that being repetitively said or something like that, it just stuck. And at first I wasn't a fan of it, and eventually, started putting it on my posters, and now it's my thing.
Yeah, it works. It completely works. And do they always come from coaches then? Is it kind of you don't get to choose your own nickname?
I mean, that's how it's supposed to be, but I think a lot of people do choose their own nickname. Sometimes it's teammates, sometimes it's coaches. I have a nickname at home from my dad, but we won't share that on here.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking, I reckon every MMA fan thinks about what their nickname would be. And
Yeah.
I've thought about mine, and I think let's see what you think of it. So I'm British and we're famous for the royal family. And my
Uh-huh.
name's pretty regal, so I think I'd go for something like King Edward or Edward the King.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay. It works. It works. What's your last name?
Yeah, maybe
What's
not
your,
as menacing as Fear, though. I
what's
think
your last name though?
my last name Vickers, so it
Okay.
kind of doesn't. It
Yeah.
kind of maybe I need one that's a bit more of an iteration, like a double V or something.
No, I
But
think the king at the beginning would work all right. Yeah.
okay, excellent. Okay, so moving on to our second section, which is outside the cage. And other than MMA, what are you passionate about?
Well, I don't have time to be passionate about too much right now, but I love drawing and writing poetry, which I put out some of my little writings every once in a while. I've started like a wordy Wednesday or writing Wednesday thing on my Instagram where I put out a piece of writing with a picture usually. But I've always enjoyed that and pencil sketching. I actually started my own business called Art of the Maverick when I was 11 and started selling and drawing for commission pencil sketches. Um,
At
so
11, you were selling them at 11.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's a good work ethic.
Entrepreneur.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I love the outdoors though, anytime I can, especially now that I've moved to Colorado, it's even easier. Go find a hike and just get outdoors. I love nature, and I think a lot of that came from the upbringing I had and always being out on the farm and being outside 24/7.
Yeah, and Colorado looks beautiful. I
Mhm.
mean, I love America and like having a look at the different places to go to. I think Colorado looks absolutely beautiful.
It is gorgeous.
And the animals, like the different animals you get there. I think I'd probably be scared half the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen any scary animals yet, but you hear about them being out. But it's definitely pretty out here. I'm waiting to have my first winter in Colorado though, and then see how much I like it.
Yeah, Christmas, I can imagine is really beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah. And next question. So throughout the COVID pandemic, there's been lots more people staying inside, streaming home entertainment. What's your typical night in entertainment choices?
Um, usually I watch like Netflix shows or something like that with Pete. Or if we don't have time for that, we usually just go straight to bed after we eat and have training. Now
Hmm.
that he started jujitsu, but so I don't know if you know about it, but there's like well, we love Marvel, so that's one of them, and then like the Star Wars episodes and things like that. But then um, a couple TV shows that we started watching were Smallville, which is like old school and super
Yeah,
nerdy. But
it was good. Smallville was great.
yeah, well, it was nostalgic for me, and so now I'm trying to rewatch them because I never got to finish the seasons when I was young. So doing that, and a couple other more like realism shows. We'll watch documentaries sometimes too.
Yes, I've heard on Netflix there's a few really good sports documentaries that have just been put on there, so I'll
Okay.
definitely be checking out. But I find that with Netflix, I'm literally me and my wife sit there and spend probably more time looking for something to watch
Yeah.
than we actually end up watching.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
been there, but yeah, the conspiracy theories and stuff like that on there are pretty cool too.
Yeah, they're all really good. And then in terms of COVID-19, so it's affected people in so many different ways. How's your experience been during COVID-19 in terms of training and fight scheduling?
It's been fine for the last year or so. I'd say the first couple months of it was definitely a pain. My gym, of course, was forced to close down entirely. So I barely got any training in when I was supposed to make my debut. The only people I really had to train with were individual lessons with my coaches and then like one or two training partners that I would get to come in there and work with me. So that was kind of annoying. After that, it's just been the nuisance of traveling and having to always remember the mask and that kind of stuff. And you get
Mm,
so many different rules, different places. Like my family lives in Missouri. You haven't had to wear a mask there hardly ever. Um, one, it's not as populated. Two, they haven't really had that much of an outbreak there. But then living in Virginia was different. And then Denver, and then like traveling to places like California where you still have to wear masks a lot. Um, it's been very um, I think it's with the way that media and the government is toil turmoil right now, it's just kind of
mhm.
annoying.
Yeah, I mean it's like over here it has been pretty crazy. It's like 2020 and 2021 just it's just kind of like crazy years that just feel like they've merged into one huge mad year.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I agree. It's been crazy. And then we were talking about Netflix and obviously Netflix got tons of movies on it. So what's your favorite movie? And I'm really hoping you're going to say Top Gun.
No, that is not my favorite movie or anywhere close, actually. In fact, I'm not even a huge fan of, Tom Cruise, unfortunately, but
What?
yeah, but I am looking forward to the new Top Gun that comes out. It's not his acting, I like his acting, I just don't like him as a person so much with the
Okay.
Scientology background and all that, if you've ever looked into that.
Yeah, I've watched a few documentaries and it's a bit crazy, I have to
Yeah,
say.
but, let's see, favorite movies. That's really hard because I have so many, like, genres that I like. A few of the, like, John Wayne movies way back in the day were my favorite. Um,
Yeah, I mean John Wayne. So I'm getting some cool. So Johnny Cash and John Wayne is pretty cool stuff to like.
definitely old school, I guess, but then I like the Marvel
Yeah.
movies that have been coming out lately.
Any particular superhero?
I like the Thor one and the Spider-Man one, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the new Spider-Man movie. That'll be cool. I've heard that there's a few. They're going to have multiple Spider-Man in it, which will be
Yeah?
awesome if it
Okay.
happens. Yeah, we'll see. And then, so this is a bit of a random question here, but are you someone who cheers in the cinema? And to add context to this, so we went out to Florida a couple of years ago, and it was a Tom Cruise film. We watched The Mummy over there, and it was incredible. Like every time Tom Cruise did anything in it, everyone was like up and whooping and cheering. And when he defeated yeah, it was amazing. And in England, like we
I
literally sit really quietly, and at the end, we maybe politely clap. So it's such a different experience.
Yeah,
Are
I've
you a
actually
cheerer?
never ever been in a theater where people were cheering or anything. Sometimes you'll hear laughs and stuff, but I'm definitely
Okay.
not, and I've never really been in a theater, environment where it has been like that, so that's
So maybe
interesting.
it was just yeah, it might have just been a random sample audience and just massive Tom Cruise fans,
Oh,
obviously.
maybe.
Okay, excellent. And then final question of the section. So, if you could choose anyone to play you in a movie, who would you choose?
Ooh, I've gotten asked that one before, so, um, the worst thing is I don't have very many female actresses I keep up with or anything, but some of the women that have done, like, the stunt work and stuff like that and, like, Wonder Woman, like, some of the more
Mhm.
CrossFit athletes that get little acting parts, I haven't seen any of them act in too, like, big of movies, but I would like somebody that had, like, a similar body type, or at least some
Mhm.
athleticism about them instead of the I guess you'd say the Victoria's Secret models that we
Mhm.
basically see playing, like, superheroes and stuff like that. But, like, Jessie Graff, she had a part in a movie, so, maybe her.
Cool. Nice answer. So next section is called
But
So You
but
Want
wait,
to...
wait, 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 I
Yeah.
forgot. I would like to play myself in the movie.
Okay, excellent. Even better answer. So have you got any background in acting? We'll
I
see
don't.
if we can cast you.
I don't even know if I could do it, to be honest, but I think I could give it a shot if it was about me.
Yeah. So next section is called So You Want to Be a Fighter. And I don't think there's a sport in existence that requires the levels of determination and heart that MMA does. So anyone that steps in the cage has got my absolute utmost respect. And I think overcoming injuries seems like it's a big part of the determination needed to be an athlete in this sport. Can you run us through some of the injuries you'd had over the years?
Sure, and I will say there's definitely other sports that have just as much strenuous with it, but the heart is definitely a big part, and then just the aspect of, I guess, fear more than anything. You're not just going against yourself like most sports are, or against like a team. You're going one-on-one individual, like it's only you and they're getting to make the decision of what could be life or death or injury or not injury. So, like gymnastics is one of the other sports that I highly respect just because of how much effort it does take and how many injuries they do, risk and sacrifice
Mhm.
that goes into that. But as far as injuries of my own, I've had some pretty major ones and then not so major ones. So, I had knee surgery when I was either 20 or almost 20. I think I was 20 years old while I was fighting for Invicta, and I had complete knee reconstruction surgery. So I tore my ACL, my MCL, my medial meniscus, my lateral meniscus, and my LCL and MCL. Like all that stuff was torn in half except the PCL. And they had to do the surgery and pull the tendons out of my thigh and hamstring area to replace it. So that was really nerve wracking. That was a
Mm.
time when I almost decided to basically not be in MMA because of the risks. And that was when I was really young, and I had never had any prior injuries before. And such a major injury really scared me. And
Mm.
then when I was supposed to make my UFC debut last June, 2 days before I was supposed to fight, I was not cleared for medicals. It was a short notice, and the only medical I had left that I had not gotten done in Virginia that I had to wait for Vegas for was my eye exam, and they ended up finding that I had both of my retinas torn and I had to go into emergency surgery on both eyes and had a very high risk of going blind. Luckily, I'm not, of course, and that's just a miracle from God. But that was a time beyond just MMA, but a time when I was wondering what I was doing with my life.
I mean, it's get that sort of thing must be absolutely terrifying to go through and to find out that as well. So you had no idea before going into that medical.
No, I had no idea because it was in my periphery is where the like the symptoms could be seen, and nobody really focuses on their periphery enough to see like a little bug flying around or anything. So yeah, it ended up being that, and they had to do like a sclera buckle surgery on both eyes. It was really scary, but I'm just glad that I was able to come back from it and still, of course, train and compete now. I
Mhm.
train differently. I don't spar as hard, and I stopped sparring with the people I was as much. It was due to trauma. That was something they said was obvious from the previous 2 years. So we changed training up a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you run through those sort of injuries, it just highlights how like how committed you have to be to really get to the top level of this sport.
Yeah. But it also highlights like how quick it can all be taken away. And that's why I think it's
Exactly.
important to have something else in your life to be able to go to. A lot of fighters just have fighting, and
Mm.
they use that as a pride point, but at the end of the day, I think it's kinda sad because all it takes is one injury, and it's an unforgiving sport. Nobody remembers you after the day you fight.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. And I think that can be said for so many different sports. We have it in this country. You see a lot of footballers, so soccer, where it's kind of their life is football. And as soon as it finishes, it's kind of such a huge void to fill. And it finishes so young in relative terms. So absolutely with you. And then in terms of fighter pay, like it's why it's so important that you guys get the pay that that you need because at any point it can finish. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that one. On the fighting, how do you stay focused and overcome the trash talk and the mind games? Because it's something like, I don't know how I could deal with that when I see some of the trash talk that's done, like to keep your cool and to keep your focus.
The hardest trash talk to overcome is the one on social media, for me at least. The Instagram people that are hiding behind a keyboard, or have
Mm.
never trained a day in their life, or don't like how you look, or talk, or fight, or whatever the case may be, right? So that was a huge test of my own confidence in myself and self-esteem at the beginning of my career. But now it's just pretty easy to just ignore it, really. And as far as my opponents talking trash, I love it when they do. I think it's great for the hype of the fight. It helps the fighters make money. We can see that through the history of who makes money and who doesn't, all the way to McGregor,
Mhm.
McGregor, Rousey. Like, the people who talk trash are the ones who get paid usually. And they're the ones that have some kind of personality. You know, I'm not trying to have the trash talker personality, but I'm trying to find other avenues and use my intelligence to win the fight game. And for me, like, like I said, I love it when people trash talk, because if anything, it just helps me go into the fight with that fuel. Like, I never really dislike anybody that I'm going in to fight. I just go in there to get my paycheck and see them as standing in the way of my dreams. But when they trash talk, then I'm not only trying to go fight to fight, but I'm gonna go try to fight to hurt them.
Yeah. So can you use it as motivation and that kind of
Yeah.
additional energy? Yeah.
And it's
Uh,
funny because I've had like two girls in a row like threaten to kill me. And I'm like, that's okay, thank you. Now I wanna fight you. Like, now I wanna hurt
yeah.
you.
Yeah. And you mentioned about social media, and I think it's just such a hot topic just in general society nowadays. And I think being in the public eye, you get so much negativity thrown at you. Anyone who's in the public eye seems to get it. What advice would you give to listeners on how to deal with it?
You just gotta learn that those people don't matter. Like, I like my fans and I love them going on there and supporting me, but the people who don't support usually don't use any logic or anything. It's just some hateful words that they throw out, or even vulgarity that gets thrown in there sometimes. It's one of those things that by putting yourself in the public eye, you have to assume that there's bad people in this world too, and they're trying to rip down those that they're jealous of or those that they see succeed beyond what they want to.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've always been of the opinion that the kind of more famous and more popular you get, there's this kind of equal amount of negativity that people just like almost a jealousy really that seems to come with it, and people trying to bring you down. So I think it's
Yeah,
great
absolutely.
advice.
And, try to focus on the positives. That's hard to say. Our brain is literally hardwired to not focus on positive stuff most of the time, but you have to try to rewire that. I'll get 100 good messages, and I used to be like, look at this one bad one. And
Yeah.
it's still hard not to do, especially when it becomes a lot on a certain page or a certain post. Um, but yeah, you just have to have your own support system and have your own confidence, I guess you'd say, and self-esteem, and not worry about it, because all of them get it. It's not a The reason I ever talk about it is because I want people to know it's not just them. I have a lot of girls that are like, "Oh, these people said this about me." I'm like, "They message me that too." Like, they literally tell everybody that you're fine. You're not the only one.
Yeah, I wish there was a way of kind of if you put a negative comment, like you get to see the person and get to see who it was who done it. It's like I hate the fact that you can kind of be a keyboard warrior
Right.
and there's just like there's no visibility of who that
Right. Like,
person
I've had
is.
I've had so many people, like, they'll say a comment, and at the beginning, I told you I'd reply to a lot, and I still do sometimes, but usually just with, like, a laughing face or a clown emoji or something. But at
Yeah.
the beginning, I'd be like, "Really? You said this? Where's your logic behind it? Da, da, da," like, argue with them, I guess you'd say, except give them no outs. And a lot of times I'd have them DM me and be like, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you'd read it," all this nonsense. I'm like, "Uh-huh."
Yeah, and I think of all the people to kind of to troll, I mean, choosing a professional MMA fighter is probably not the most sensible idea in the world.
Probably makes them feel tough when they know nothing can be done about it.
Yeah, I think so. So on to inspirations. So you mentioned your dad. So was it your dad who inspired you to get into MMA, or was it yourself, or where did that inspiration come from?
I think it was definitely my dad. Like, I shouldn't say not myself. Um, encourage myself to go on and fight. He was just encouraging of jujitsu initially, but he's one of those people that if I tell him I want to do something and I have the plan worked out and work hard to get there, he'll support me in it. So he's always been in my corner for my fights. The only one he wasn't was my UFC debut because it was during COVID and the passports took forever to get renewed. But he's been in my corner for every other fight, and it's just been exciting having him on that journey to like kind of get to live through my success. I don't want to say vicariously, but he never had the chance to do the things that I've had the chance to do when he was young. And so to be able to kind of help bring my whole family up as far as whether it be in money or in people knowing them or to be able to show my dad to the world. I think he's a good public speaker. I think he's great at interviews and great at representing himself and my family. So it's good to take him with me and be able to have him by my side when I'm tired and don't want to answer stuff.
Yeah, and I think, as I say, we had a look through your social media page earlier, and it's so clear how important family are to you, and that kind of that love and the group that you have. So yeah, it comes across it really clearly on social media. And then outside of the family, when we talk about inspirations, is there anyone who really inspires you, maybe even outside of MMA, that you'd love to meet?
Well, in MMA, I'd love to still meet him. I haven't gotten to yet is GSP. He's always been
Yeah,
a person
the
that I'm
goat.
really inspired by in MMA. And then, let's see, outside of MMA, I'm not as sure.
And
Definitely
if you
lots of inspirations out there, all the way from like writers and authors, psychologists and stuff that I've read about and read stories about. Lots of things, but it's hard for me to like pinpoint certain things. I have so many inspirations that come from everywhere, and you'll see me quote a lot of people that I am inspired by on my Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah, and if you could have a share a pizza or any food preference with him, what question would you ask him?
Uh,
Or
well,
any kind of
questions
topic
I
you'd
would
like
ask him are pretty much like I read his book and I used to read it before every single amateur fight. I know that sounds crazy, but I read really fast and I'd read it 24 hours before every single one. And it was the I think it's Why I Fight book that he wrote. And it was just amazing. And I'd ask him, how he was able to kind of control his pace and fights in terms of he would fight a good person and he would fight a bad person and he'd make it look the same every time.
Yeah, it's so true. He's like
It was just
in fight management is it another level. Yeah,
yeah.
incredible.
I guess in my opinion, his fight IQ is greater than any other fighter at his time.
Yeah, I think from a kind of a non-professional point of view, I think is the greatest ever to do it. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a great choice. We've got 3 rounds left, and the first one we've got, this is a bit of a random one. So it's called the hypothetical round. So we've got 2 hypothetical questions for you. First one is you have the power to change one thing in MMA. What would it be? So this could be anything from the scoring system, anything you like.
I would talk about the pay structure, like the percentage of the promotional payout. I don't think it's unfair in terms of an average wage for people, which is always what people like arguing, and it's funny to me. But as far as a professional athlete, we do not get paid not only a fair percentage of the promotional earnings, but we don't get paid near on the level as, say, a soccer player or a
Mm,
basketball player or people who don't even put their lives on the line in any way. I'm sure professional golfers probably get paid more than we do. And I find that really disappointing when we're putting like our lives on the line and a lot of people don't have jobs. Like this is what they do and this is what I want to do too. Right now, luckily, I do have a job that I can fall back on. Um, but it's almost less out of choice and more out of need right now.
and I agree with you, and I think what people don't realize, because I have this conversation a lot with people, and not specific on MMA, just on professional sports. And when people say about the pay and the level of pay that it should be, the argument I always have in terms of that it should be way higher than people think is it's a short career. In the grand scheme of things, most professional sports, you're at your elite level for probably what 5 years, and then for your whole career of maybe 15 years. is a really long career, particularly in MMA. It's probably even shorter. So you're kind of earning potential, and you put so much into it. It has to represent the earnings it's going to take you through the rest of your life. And I think when you kind of look at it that way, I
Well,
mean,
I
it should
think
be.
looking at it that way and the amount of entertainment that people gain from it, like so
Yes.
many people watch it and so many people pay to watch it. And we were talking about the haters on social media. I had somebody that was like, nobody watches you anyway, and it was all this nonsense, or we illegally buy it anyway, or whatever else. And I'm like, cool. Like, I don't care. But the crazy thing is that these people pay to watch you, and each person pays what, $50 to watch these fights, and not to mention all the ticket sales and stuff like that. And of course, you have to pay the employees behind the scenes and that kind of thing. But then the fighters are the ones that the people are really watching. And when they say, oh, well, you're getting paid more than a person with an average salary, I'm like, and we should be. I train more than most people work per week and put my body through hell on top of having a job and school and whatever else that I have to balance. And every other fighter is the same way. They may have a family and they're fighting and they're training and they're going through injuries and having to pay for these. Like, we don't get paid for every injury we have unless it's during a fight camp. And people just don't think about all the ins and outs of being an athlete. And of course, it's not just in fighting that I'm referring to.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. I think, unfortunately for you guys, I think you're probably in 10 years' time, I think the fighters fighting will look back at what you guys are paid and be absolutely shocked. I think in 10 years' time,
I
it
hope
will
so.
be like it should be. Well, that's the hope, isn't it? And well, hopefully it comes sooner. But yeah, I think it will be a shock. You're kind of the like paving the way for the future, I think. Um, Okay, and second hypothetical question. So this one is very, very random. So it's a zombie apocalypse, and you need to escape a city crawling with the undead. Which one fighter would you team up with, and why?
Oh, one fighter.
Yeah, one fight. I've got an answer to this, but I'm questioning myself.
Okay. Um, it's got to be someone who likes guns.
Hmm.
And and can run really fast and is smart. Uh, hmm.
This was my thought process as well.
I wish I knew more about different fighters and stuff. Um, for now, let's just I haven't met her in person, so I don't know how fast she can run or anything, but we'll go with the champ. We'll go with Valentina.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout. And I'm thinking I need to change mine to Valentina. I went with John Jones because I'm thinking everything I've seen with him, he seems pretty handy with an assault rifle. But I'm questioning myself because I'm not sure if he knows the zombie rules, like double tap and things like that. So if he ended up getting bitten, it'll be a real problem because he'd be coming after me, and I think I wouldn't be able to escape John Jones on it. So I think
Yeah,
Valentina seems a good.
might lose his temper and end up hurting somebody or something.
Yeah, I know.
But,
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether to touch upon it, but well, yeah.
uh,
Um,
yeah, I'd have to like go on a run through all the fighters and stuff. I'd probably end up at the end of the day picking a guy that's more capable with a gun than Valentina, but I'm not sure. At least they could maybe throw him around a little bit more.
there you go. You probably message me back at like 2 in the morning and be like, I thought of someone. This is a perfect person.
Go edit it.
Exactly. Okay, cool. So we've got this round is called 10 quickfire questions. So I don't want you to think too much about it. I'm going to give you this and that question and just answer with the first one. So you ready?
Mhm.
Okay, Batman or Superman?
Superman.
Submission win or KO win?
Submission.
Goose or Iceman?
Goose.
Good. Marvel or Disney?
Um, no, my goodness. Disney.
And technically Disney own Marvel. I've just
Yeah,
thought.
I'd say they're
But
kind of the
yeah.
same, but I'll go with Disney. That's where you get the good wholesomeness.
Yeah. Striking or grappling?
Grappling.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
McGregor or Machine Gun Kelly?
Oh, McGregor.
WWE or AEW?
WWE.
The ability to fly or the ability to be invisible?
Invisible.
And final, rock or rap?
Rock.
Okay, good. And I love that we touched upon some of these. I thought these were so random, but we actually mentioned quite a few before we got to them.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, just to wrap things up, so this is a what's next section. And first question is, what's the latest on when we can see you back in the cage?
I'm hoping by end of 2020, it could be January. I'm sorry, of 2021. It could be January of 2022. I've already told them I want to fight by the end of October or later, but so far we haven't been able to find anybody or get me a match right now.
Excellent. And last question we've got. So, in the next few years, what would be your biggest achievement, or what's the thing you want to achieve the most?
I want to pay off the land that I bought in Missouri and hopefully set my sights on some more land. Real estate investment is kind of the way I want to go, connected to my family's property.
Amazing. Well, I just want to say a massive thank you. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and all the very best wishes for you and your fiance. Does it feel weird saying fiance yet? Because I know when I got engaged, it was weird for a little while saying fiance.
Maybe for him. I don't know. Not so much. It's more of one of those things. It's like an upgrade name.
Yeah. Oh, well, as I say, thank you very much, and have a really nice day.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, hopefully speak to you soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.